Today we're going over the home buying process for Louisville, Kentucky. Now keep in mind, if you're outside of Louisville, Kentucky, this process is going to look different, and if you need help finding an agent that's somebody outside of Louisville, Kentucky, feel free to give me a call. I've got a lot of connections in a lot of major cities, and so I can find you somebody that's really good to work with. And if you are in Louisville, Kentucky and you want to sit down and discuss how to buy a house, any questions that you've got, and we can really sit down, have coffee or lunch and just discuss the entire home buying process, feel free to give me a call. I've got my cell phone number down below. With that being said, if you are new to the channel, my name is Spencer Lowe. I'm with United Real Estate Louisville, and make sure you click that subscribe button as well as the bell notifications so you never miss a market update or another video like this. Post buyer and seller tips as well as market updates each week, so make sure you click those buttons so you don't miss any of that. And if you do get something out of this video, I'd really appreciate it if you smash that like button because it really helps me out. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to sit down with a real estate agent and discuss the entire home buying process, as well as get questions that you might have out of the way, as well as talk to them about timeframes, what you're looking for, as well as that they're also going to connect you with different people that might be able to help you. So things like maybe you need credit repair or a good lender, or you need a home inspector, or you need an insurance agent, things like that we can start to work with, so that way we can get you ready for the home buying process, because there is some homework that we need to complete before we start looking at houses. So sit down with an agent early in the process. Even if you're 6 months, 2 years out from buying a house, sit down with them early so that way you can start asking your questions and get connected with an agent, so that way they can really start to help you, making sure that that buying process goes smooth and that you're ready when you want to be ready. Now, the second thing we want to do is we want to sit down with the mortgage lender and discuss the financing part of the buying process. Now, we're going to talk about down payment, mortgage products. We're going to talk about what's our monthly payment going to be, how much can we buy. Yeah, we can buy, up to $600,000, but are we comfortable with the payments on that? Maybe we're closer to the $400,000 is where we want our payments to be. So all these questions really help to just sit down with a mortgage lender, get pre-approved, and get all these questions answered, because yeah, we might be able to be pre-approved for, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, but maybe we don't want to pay that much per month for it. Maybe we're more comfortable at $400,000. So get pre-approved early in the process. On top of that, when we start looking at houses and we find the right one, having that pre-approval letter makes your offer a little bit stronger, because having it into the offer and showing the sellers that you've already been to the bank, got the green light, and we're good to go on this price, it really helps the sellers be more comfortable accepting your offer, especially if there's two offers and they're the exact same. The only difference is one has a pre-approval letter and one doesn't. They're probably going to take the one with the pre-approval letter just because, well, they've been to the bank, they've already got the green light. So that really helps increase your strength of your offer when you go to make an offer. So sit down with them early so that way you don't necessarily get caught where it's Friday evening, we find the right house, but we don't have a pre-approval letter and we only have an offer. So make sure we do this early in the process. And if you need somebody to sit down with, give me a call. I'd love to connect you with a handful of people that could really help you out in the mortgage process. Now, the third thing that we start doing is we start looking at houses online. I'm going to start sending you houses of what you've told me you're looking for. Tell me what you think about these houses. And then on top of that, when we start looking at houses, we're going to start scheduling showings and going to these houses. And it's really important that we get in as soon as possible. So I'm going to send you houses that hit the market. And then once we do that, if you want to schedule a showing, we set it up as soon as possible. So make sure that you have a flexible schedule in this time. And then also when we're looking at houses, just keep in mind that sellers have cameras. So whatever you say in the house could be used against you in the negotiations. So don't come into the house and say, yeah, I like this house. I'd even pay double what they're asking for it, because the sellers are listening to you probably, and they're probably going to use that information when that offer comes in to negotiate a little bit higher. So if you come in and you say, yeah, I'd pay up to $30,000 above what they're asking for it, well, they might counter our original offer and use it to get a little bit extra money. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at houses. Don't say anything that could be used against you when you're in the houses. You can say you like it, you can say, I don't like the kitchen wallpaper, I don't like whatever, but just keep in mind that whatever you say in the house could be used against you. So try not to say anything that could be used against you. Next step is finding the right house. After we find the right house, then it's putting the offer in on that house. Now, this process is pretty easy. Once we find the right house, after we leave the house, because we don't want to talk about it in the house, because chances are sellers have cameras, so they're listening to us. After we leave the house, get on the phone, call your agent. If your agent hasn't already called you, just tell them, hey, I really like the house. I want to make an offer on it. Here's what I'm thinking about offering. What do you think? And then what I'm going to do as the agent is I'm going to call the other agent and say, hey, have you had much action on it? Do you have, 15 showings on it today? Are any offers in hand? Are you expecting any offers? Have any agents called you and said, hey, I've got an offer coming to you? We're going to start working with the other agent on it a little bit to make sure that we can get what information we need to have in order to make a competitive offer on that house. Then after I type everything up, send it over to you, and you sign, and we get on the phone, discuss what everything means. After you sign it, I send it to the agent, and then we're just waiting to hear back whether or not they accepted another offer, or rejected our offer, or maybe even they countered an offer because there was no other offers and they're just working the one offer they have. stuff. So this process is really easy, but it's really important, to work with your agent on that, so that way they can discuss what different things mean and what you're required to do moving forward to actually get it to the closing table. Because when you make an offer, you're agreeing to put, earnest money down, which is just a good faith check. It goes in an earnest money account. It's held until closing. Typically goes towards your down payment or your closing costs. And then, things like that, that's typically due on the Louisville contracts. It's 3 days from the time the offer is accepted. So if it's accepted Sunday evening, we need to have that in an earnest money account by Wednesday at the latest. And it's really important, when you're going through this, to talk to your agent about different things like that, as well as like inspections. If we've got 10 days to do a home inspection, we really want to make sure that we have a home inspector that we reach out to Monday to make sure that we actually get the home inspection done in those 10 days, we get it back. And then we also want to make sure that we get everything, repair requests negotiated out, whatever that is in that offer. We want to start doing the things as soon as possible, as soon as they accept it. So it's really important to know what's in the offer, what you're agreeing to, what you can and can't do, and then also make sure that once we're ready to roll, once that offer is accepted, and actually get the process rolling as we're under contract. Now the next part, and we already touched a little bit on it, but it's the inspection period. So, actually doing the stuff that was in the offer that we agreed to, given that offer was accepted. So once the offer is accepted, then we've got a couple things that we need to do. So things like earnest money, should probably go ahead and get that to your agent, so that way they can get it to the right place, right office that's holding that. And the second thing is the inspection. So typically you've got an inspection period unless you waived it. And when we have the inspection period, we want to make sure that we get a home inspector in there as early as possible. So if the offer is accepted on a Sunday, Monday morning, we're calling a home inspector to get them into that house pretty early and pretty quick in the process. And then on top of that, if we have any other inspections besides just a general home inspection, this is the time frame that we want to do it. So things like roof inspections, maybe a septic inspection, a pool inspection. There's a dozen different inspections that you can do when you're looking at buying a house. We want to make sure that we get those done in the time frame that was agreed upon in the offer if you do have an inspection period. Now, after we get through the inspections and all the repairs are negotiated out, the next part in this is the actual appraisal. Now, most banks are going to require an appraisal on a property just because they don't want to lend out $500,000 on a property that's truly worth $200,000, right? They want to make sure the property is in good condition, and they also want to make sure that the bank isn't upside down on the loan for it. So it's their money they're lending, so they want to just double check to make sure that the house isn't overvalued or you're paying too much for it. And with that, they just want to double check everything. So as soon as we get through inspection period, we order the appraisal. That typically takes about 2 weeks to come back, is the typical time frame most lenders give their appraisers to get the appraisal back. Once that happens, then the appraiser goes out, gets back to them, and then the bank looks at it. And then hopefully by this point, we've already got the mortgage lender all the documents that they needed from us as far as like taxes, pay stubs, bank statements, different things like that. We've already got the mortgage lender. So hopefully we're just waiting for that appraisal at that point. That goes back through underwriting, and then we get what's called the clear to close, which just means that we're pretty much ready to go straight on into the closing table as soon as that's finished. Now, after we get through the appraisal, hopefully the mortgage lender has all the questions he needs and all the documents he needs from you to make sure that we're pretty much good to go. Now, after that, after mortgage lender's got everything they need, we should get what's called a clear to close. Now, clear to close just means that the file's been cleared to go to the closing table and the mortgage is ready to be signed on and the mortgage lender is ready to lend all that money for it. So once we get that clear to close, we really need to do two things, which is first, we need to schedule a final walkthrough on the property. And then the second one is we need to schedule our closing date. So let's say we get the clear to close on a Monday, maybe our final walkthrough is Wednesday, and then our closing date is Thursday. And what we want to do on that final walkthrough is just walk through, inspect the property, make sure there's no new damage to the property if there is damage. We want to make sure that, while they were moving out, the chair leg didn't go through the wall. We also want to make sure that things like, the basement didn't flood or anything crazy, because maybe the sellers moved out a week ago and the house has been sitting vacant. So we just want to make sure that nothing crazy has happened to the property. And we want to make sure that we don't go to the closing table, sign to agree, and accept it as is, and then find out once we go to start moving in, the basement's flooded. So we just want to make sure that everything's good with the property. And then after that, we schedule our closing, go to the closing table, and then this is where we just sign all the documents and warm up your fingers if you're doing a mortgage, because that mortgage paperwork is about 1.5 inches thick and there's a ton of stuff that you're going to need to sign. So just be ready for that when you get to the closing table. Just be ready to sign a whole bunch of documents. Now, after we get to the closing table, we sign all our documents. Unless there's a delayed possession agreement, which your agent will let you know of before we get to the closing table, that's when we get our keys and we're ready to move into the property. Now, if you are looking at buying this year or next year and you just want to sit down with an agent and discuss the process, maybe get some connections so that we can start working with a mortgage lender or two, give me a call. I'd love to sit down and talk to you about it. I've also got a couple things before you go. I've got my pre-listing checklist, my seller's guide, as well as my buyer's guide, which is basically talks about pretty much everything that we did, but it's it's a printable version, so that way you can really have some places to take notes and different things like that. So if you want those, they're on my website. Just click the links down below, take you to my website where you can download those for completely free. If you do have any further questions, feel free to give me a call or shoot me a text. I'd love to sit down and talk to you. Once again, my name is Spencer Lowe. I'm with United Real Estate Louisville. I'll see you in the next one.